All right, welcome virtual students. Here we go, Monday, 5/17. All right, so a quick review, equation of a circle. This is what we talked about on Friday. The equation of a circle, but we really need to review how to complete the square. All right, here's the equation of a circle. It's x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared, and that's equal to r squared. The h and k is an ordered pair that is the center of the circle, and the r is the radius of the circle. Those are the most important parts of a circle. Okay, so let me go back to this screen. All right, so with that, that's where we're at right now. This is 17:1. Okay, but what I want to do is kind of go back to Algebra 1, and we have this quadratic equation, x squared plus 2x. You might need to keep up with us, Felicity. X squared plus 2x minus 8. That is a quadratic equation. Quadratic equation. There are 4 methods to solve. We're going to go through all 4 of them today. Here's number 1. Probably the least favorite is graphing. Okay, so here we go. We got an xy. All right, use these values, -4, -2, 0, 2, and 4. And let's solve this quadratic. And we're going to set it equal to y because that's our corresponding function. All right, now go ahead and put those values in, those 5 values, and get a corresponding value for y. You probably can do this in your head, this math. You're smart. You're smart. You're intelligent. You can do it, Riley. -4 squared, 16, minus 8, minus 8. There's the 4 ordered pairs. -4, 0, -2, -8, 0, -8, 2, 0, and 4, 16. Let's make a rough graph here. Not worried, not using, graphing paper. I'm just going to try and graph this the best we can. -4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That point's on the graph. 4, 0, -4, 0. Okay. Now we go -2, -8, -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. -2, -8. 0, -8. 0, -8. That's also on the graph. 2, 0, 1, 2. And then 4, 16. Wow, that's way up there. I'm not going to count 16 dashes. I'm just going to say that it's way up there somewhere. Now I'm going to connect the dots and create a graph. Yes. What kind of figure is that? Parabola.
Yeah.
We actually talked more about it in 17.2, but the reason that I'm bringing it up now is because this is the way that we can solve a quadratic equation. Where does the graph intersect the x-axis? Those two places are the two solutions, -4 and +2. Those are the solutions to the quadratic where the graph crosses the x-axis. Everyone okay with that? We good? I'm going to put a check mark by our graph, that method. We've got 3 more to go. Here's number 2. Factoring. Okay, well, to do factoring, x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. I'm going to take you back. I got to take you back to like 7th grade. Let's say that I have x minus 3 times x minus 5. If I were to multiply, so this is separate. This is just a random example that I got. If I take that, x minus 3 times x minus 5, how would I multiply that out? Anybody? 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 What would I do? Anybody remember? Anybody? Anybody? Carson?
Don't you take the x multiplied by both of them, so
You remember what it's called, Carson? You're exactly right.
I don't know what you called it.
That is called the distribution property,
Oh, you meant that. I thought you know what's called when you do that with those.
and it's also called FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. Okay, so the distribution property, what's x times x, Bliss? No. X squared. 2x is x plus x. I'm looking at you with my you should know better face. Okay, so that's distribution. So x times x is x squared. X times -5 is -5x. Then we do the same thing with the next term. We take -3 to both terms. -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -5 is +15. And so we end up with x squared minus 8x plus 15. Those are like terms, so I combine those like terms. Now, so that's how we factored. You guys remember that? Probably did it last year in Algebra 1. Okay, so here's the idea, though, I want you to think about now, is what if I have this trinomial and I go this way? I go backwards. That is what we call factoring. Lovely factoring. Do you remember that now? Again, it's probably right during the beginning of the pandemic. And so, how do you factor? You put blank parentheses like this. You think of factors of x squared as x and x. Factors of 15 that give us positive 15 when we multiply, and -8 when we add. So we have -5 and -3. That's factoring. See how it's kind of just reverse? Okay. So now let's go to our problem that we're talking about and let's factor. So I have x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. I'll move it to the top of the screen, and here we go. What are factors of x squared? X and x. What are factors of 8? Well, the only factors of 8 are 8 and 1 and 4 and 2. And so I have to make sure I've got my negatives, my signs correct, so that they're multiplied together, they give us -8. That means they got to be opposite signs. And when they're added together, they give us +2. So we've got two things to consider. -8, +1, -4, +2. +8, -1, +4, -2. What combination will end up with +2 in the middle?
+4, -2.
Very good, Carson. +4, -2. It's the only combination that works. Now, I'm going to have to write it on the screen. Here in the class, you guys can all see it on the board. We've got a little crazy looking equation. It says this. Triangle times a square equals 0. Use your imagination. If triangle times a square equals 0, what's that mean about the triangle or the square? One of them is equal to 0, but we don't know which one. And so, if both of these are multiplied together to equal 0, then that means that x plus 4 equals 0 and x minus 2 equals 0. So we have to find the value that makes the expression 0. So x then is equal to -4, and x then is equal to +2, and they are both considered solutions. Look at that. Same. -4, +2. That's our second method for solving a quadratic equation. Should be review. If not, learn it. Factoring. Okay, let's go to our third method. Let's go back up to my list. The third method is actually called the quadratic formula. I'm abbreviating it with QF. So let's go over here. The quadratic formula. Anybody here in class have it memorized? Anybody? Yay, nay, yay, nay. Nay? All right. Here's the quadratic formula. Write it down. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's the quadratic formula. Now, where is that derived from? Why in the world is that the quadratic formula? Well, write this down. X squared plus b x plus c is equal to 0. That is called the standard form of a quadratic function or a quadratic equation. Why is it a quadratic? Because it has an x squared term. It's very, not similar necessarily, but same concept. What's this called? Do you guys remember that equation there? Slope-intercept form. That's the standard form for a line or a linear. Standard form for slope-intercept. That makes sense? So it's like that. All right, so back to this. So what I want to do then is, for our equation that we're working with, x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0, I'm going to identify the important parts for the quadratic function. Here we go. A, what's my coefficient for the a? Well, if there's nothing written there, we know that that's a 1. What's my coefficient for a b? That's a +2. And what's my constant? -8. So here's what I want you to do at your seats. Take those three values and plug them in. Just a big substitution problem. Plug them in and substitute and simplify the quadratic formula. Go ahead. You're going to get 2 solutions when you're done. Put A in for A, B in for B, C in for C, and simplify. When are you leaving?
I leave tomorrow, so I wanted to come tell you if I hug you.
Yes. All the way out to
Utah.
not Idaho, Utah. So I'm
Utah.
getting my geography.
Yes.
Right, I like that.
Yeah. I just want to tell you goodbye. Yes, I'm super excited.
It'll be awesome.
I love. I just want to say bye.
Yes.
Thank you for all you did.
One of the best. Well, when you come back for holidays, stop in.
I definitely will. I'll come annoy you.
Are they coming up? See?
My grandma is for Thanksgiving, and then I'm coming home for Christmas.
Are they helping your mom get helping you move?
Now I'm flying, so.
And big vehicles.
Well, it's just like, in the house break, I don't really have anything, so just buying stuff out there.
You're gonna show everything that happened.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna have to do class. I just wanted to say bye. Bye.
Okay, do you guys solve for the quadratic formula? You got it? Let's see what it looks like here. Oh, let's see, Aaliyah. Did you get it? I know, but do you remember doing them? -4 and -8 is 32. So -2 plus or minus 36. -2 plus or minus 6. Two answers. -2 plus 6 is 4 over 2. 4 over 2 is 2. -2 minus 6 is -8 over 2, which is -4. And look at that. Same. -4, +2. Okay, we got one more. This is the complete the square method. I'm going to fit the first one on this little corner, and then we're going to get a new sheet. Before I do it, let's go to this equation. X squared minus 8x plus 15. This is the example we used earlier. And let's complete the square. Now, the guy that we watched the video for at the beginning of class, he does an okay job, but I of course, I think I'm going to do it better.
I think he did it better. He had a mustache. Yeah, I like this.
Okay, so here's how you do it. X squared minus 8x, and then look, we're going to give ourselves some space. We've got to take the constant to the other side, so we have -15, and then we're going to give ourselves some space. Do it like this. Don't do it like he did it. Do it like this. It'll help you. Okay, so I've manipulated the equation so now that I can complete the square. Now watch my pen and follow along mentally. Here we go. -8. What's half of -8? What's -4 squared? Whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. Notice I use a different color to help you remember it. So I have to add 16 to both sides. Okay? Now I've created a perfect square trinomial. That is half of 8. That's this, factored. Which means it's a perfect square because it's the same term. And rather than writing it as two separate terms, I'm going to write it as a single term squared. -15 plus 16 is 1. Everyone okay? Now I take the square root just like algebra 1. Take the square root of both sides, and I have x minus 4 is equal to plus or minus 1. Why is that plus or minus? Because, look at this real quick. You don't need to write this down. X squared equals 9. What's the value of x that makes that 9? Could it be positive 3? Yeah. But could it also be negative 3? Yeah. So when I take and I solve and take the square root, I have to do both plus or minus. So that's why I have a plus or minus 1 here. Okay? Now I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and then I've got two solutions. I have 5 and I have 3. That should look familiar. Go back to our problem. 5 and 3. 5, 3. 5, 3. Okay? We good? Lydia, we good? All right, let's go to what we're working on. This is the fourth method. We've got x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Now, let's change the problem and complete the square. Here we go. Do it exactly like I am. Do that. That's our first step. We're manipulating the equation to get it ready to complete the square. Now, mentally stay with me because you can do this in your head. What's half of 2? 1. What's 1 squared?
2.
No.
1.
1 squared is 1. So whatever we do to one side, we add it to the other side. That's a perfect square trinomial on this side. So that factors to x plus 1. It is always half of the b term. It's always half of the linear term. See how that 2 is the b term, the b value? It's always half that. That's how it's factored. A plus 1 over here is 9. By the way, many students think completing the square is the easiest of the 4. So don't let this freak you out. By the time we're done, you might agree. Okay, so now I take the square root of both sides. So now I have x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 3. Because the square root and the square cancel each other out. Now I subtract 1. And so I have plus 3 minus 1, which is 2. Minus 3 minus 1, which is negative 4. Does that look familiar for our solutions? Should, because it's the same. 2, negative 4. 2, negative 4. Oh my goodness, that's our fourth way of solving a quadratic. Graphing, factoring, quadratic formulaing, completing the square. Okay, let's do some more examples of completing the square, but now let's apply it to section 17.1, which is dealing with the equation of a circle. So once again, equation of a circle, we need to have this memorized. Y minus k, quantity squared, is equal to r squared. That's the equation of a circle. Turn to page 891 in your book. We're going to look at example 2. While you're opening there, I'm going to write it on the paper for the screen for us all to look at. X squared minus 4x plus y squared plus 2y equals 20. That's the equation. Page 891. Okay, so the first thing I need to do, now this looks more complicated than what we've been doing, but it isn't. We're just going to complete the square for the x's, and then we're going to complete the square for the y's. Okay, so here we go. Do it exactly like I am. X squared minus 4x plus blank plus y squared plus 2y plus blank equals the constant plus blank plus blank. Do it like that. It's the best way. Mentally, let's complete the square. Lydia, what's half of negative 4? What's negative 2 squared? We add 4 there, and we add 4 here. Carly, what's half of 2? 1. What's 1 squared? We add 1 there, we add 1 there. Now we factor. This is a perfect square trinomial for the x's. So that's x minus 2 squared. This is a perfect square trinomial for the y's. That's y plus 1 squared. We can do tough stuff. We're smart. We're from Minnesota. Smart. Or Boston. Smart. Or Jersey. Smart. Don't know. That's equal to 25. Okay, now that should look like the equation of a circle, does it? Yes. What's my h value, Aurora? No. You got to be careful with that. H is equal to 2. It's the opposite. It's counterintuitive. It's the opposite sign than what it looks like. Okay? And then K is -1. And my R is 5. So my center will be 2, -1. And my radius is 5. All right. Now, they do also on this problem, they want us to graph. So we're going to make a crude, quick graph. Here we go. 2, -1. 1, 2, -1. Doop. Radius of 5. I'm just going to count 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bingo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. Now I got the 4 spots. Let's kind of connect. Oh, it doesn't look like a football. Like a tear, almost like a teardrop. All right, so the radius is 5. Radius is 5. Look at this. Looks like a scope. Radius is 5. There we go. That's graphing the circle. Here's my center. All right, any questions on example 2? All right, let's move over to page 892. We're going to do example 3. Here we go. All right, we've got x squared. This is 3b, I believe. X squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 4y plus 4 equals 0. Oh, they're throwing a little curveball at us. Let's move that positive 4 to the other side. All right, so let's manipulate the equation. I have x squared plus 6x plus blank plus y squared minus 4y plus blank. And that's equal. I take that 4, that constant, to the other side. Plus blank plus blank. No, you have to do that. Yeah. Now, they may be in the problem. I don't know. I didn't look at it. Are they? Oh, yeah, they are. They have spaces. So, yeah. Okay, so what is half of 6?
1.
3. What's 3 squared?
6. No, 9.
What's half of -4? -2. What's -2 squared? Okay, now let's simplify. This is a perfect square trinomial. X plus 3 quantity squared. This is a perfect square trinomial. Y minus 2 quantity squared. -4 plus 9 plus 4 is 9. My center. Be careful with this. -3, positive 2. That's my h and my k. My radius. R is equal to 3. All right, let's graph. We'll make a crude graph. -3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. My radius is 3, so then 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Good? We're going to do another one. Okay? This is the last one of the day. Let's give you a chance. We'll give you a chance to do it. See if you can get it right. This is at the bottom of page 892. So page 892, here it is. x squared. This is your turn at the bottom of the page. X squared plus 2x plus y squared minus 8y plus 13 equals 0. Go. If you're completely lost, I'm going to get it set up for us. Those of you that missed the quiz last week, I'm going to take it tomorrow. Half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1, half of negative 8 is negative 4, negative 4 squared is 16. Add both those to both sides. Did you guys get it correct? The center is negative 1, 4, and the radius is 2. If you didn't, check your math. No homework for tonight.